Hi there, Sandra here from the Schwowin's Nest. Thanks for stopping by today. The first thrift flip that I have for you is this little creamer. I've had this for a while when I thought I would be able to make a little bit of extra cash selling some things on Etsy, but some of the stuff didn't go. And that's okay. So I've decided to repurpose this little creamer and I'm just going to tape off the inside of it because I don't want to paint the inside. I just want to paint the outside. That way it can still get used for actual cream or milk, or it can just be a decor piece. I'm using Rust-Oleum chalk paint in the color Chiffon Cream, and it actually turns out to be the exact same color of this creamer. So I'm going to give it a couple of really good coats. I'm going to make sure they dry really well in between because I don't want any of it to pull off. Using my Cricut and a piece of cardstock, I made this little stencil. I end up only using the two fleur-de-lis and the cafe sign and not the actual scrolls on the top. What I'm doing is holding it really gently and firmly at the same time using a tiny little stencil brush, and I'm going to be very light with my touch because I want this to look faded and aged. I also don't want any bleed through, so that's why I'm dabbing it off and almost using a dry brush technique for the letters. I just took it off to make sure that it was doing what I wanted it to do. Now I'm going to refit the stencil and just move it over so I can have more control over the fleur-de-lis part, and I'll do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to use Mod Podge to seal this in to make sure that it doesn't chip and that it can be wiped down. Project number 2 is using this candlestick. It was a brown color when I first purchased it, and then I painted it white with chalk paint, and I've never used it just because I didn't like the look of it. And then I realized, you know what? It's because it's white. So I'm taking some high heat barbecue paint, which is something that I love to use. It dries so fast and it turns into a beautiful flat black finish. So I'm going to go ahead and give this one good coat. Every month here on YouTube, I host a thrift store flip collab, and this month I have 5 amazing creators joining me: Kiki DIYs, C'est La Vie Dawn, Monner's Market, Jackie Burns Creations, and Deco Easy. When you're done watching my video, I would really appreciate it if you could click on that playlist link, go visit their channels, subscribe, like, and tell them I sent you. This is one of those jars that has the sealable lid. It was a dollar store purchase. I think it was Dollarama. I got a couple of them. I'm not using this one at all, so I decided to remove the lid completely. And once I did that, all of those metal pieces just popped right off. I cleaned up the jar and set it aside. Now I'm going to just paint this little wood disc from the Dollar Tree black. I needed to have something to elevate the jar and fill the gap in between the rim of the candlestick and the bottom of the jar. So this is going to do the trick. Using my Cricut Joy, I love that little machine. If you don't have one and you do crafting, it's a super investment. I'm able to do all sorts of printables and decals and stencils. It really has changed my life and the way I do my crafting. I have arthritis. It's really hard for me to paint details and drawings and with letters and things. So I'm just really excited that this is working out for me. I will have all of the decals or printables available on my website. The link is down in my description box. What I'm going to do is take this beautiful flower arrangement that I did and I'm going to put it on the glass jar. So here I'm just weeding out a couple of the small little pieces that need to get removed, and then I'll put the transfer tape on and get it stuck on the glass. I'm going to place the decal right underneath the rim of the jar and then make sure that it's nicely spaced apart from the first one and then just press it down. Using my Cricut squeegee, I'm going to go ahead and burnish the decal and make sure that it's stuck to the glass really well before I peel off the transfer tape. I'll repeat this process 2 more times and get a total of 4 decals on the jar. To make the glass blend in a little bit more with the candlestick, I decided to paint the rim with black chalk paint. I just gave it a couple of coats, making sure I hit the bottom rim as well as the top part of the glass. I'm going to use Star Bond glue to glue the little wood piece onto the bottom of the jar, and it works really good. The only other thing I would have probably done, because the jar has a little bit of a dip in it, is put some hot glue in the center, which would also help to just keep it in place. I'm also making sure that I have the black side facing to the bottom of the jar, because that was the whole point of painting it black, so you wouldn't be able to notice the wood. Using the Star Bond glue again, this is the medium viscosity, which just gives you a little bit more working time. I'm also going to use the accelerator and spray that on the bottom piece of the wood, and that will just make the glue dry instantly as soon as they're put together. This ensures a super strong hold. I thought this little sundae cup was the cutest thing. It's this beautiful yellow color, but not my style. So I've decided to upcycle it into more of a concrete look. I'm starting off by giving it one coat of white chalk paint, and this is the folk art chalk paint in Adirondack. Really nice and thick, and it covers really well with one coat. I made sure that the white chalk paint was really super dry. I let it go for a couple of hours. And now I'm using Parisian Gray, which is also a folk art chalk paint, and a kitchen sponge. And I'm just dabbing it along all over the white just to give it more of a concrete look. And I think it's turning out pretty good so far. I'm giving it a fairly thick coat with the gray, but I do want some of the white to peek through, because that gives it more of a concrete look. I did have to press a little bit harder to get into some of those grooves, but again, I didn't want this to be totally covered with the gray. I wanted some of that white to peek through, and the sponge is giving it the perfect texture for concrete. For the inside of the bowl, I did have to go a little bit more with brush strokes to get under the rim. It's a really thick rim at the top. This is a really heavy piece, and I ended up at the end just grabbing a little paintbrush and just pouncing some of the gray underneath the rim so it wouldn't have big white spaces. I'm going to hot glue a couple of tiny pieces of styrofoam into the bottom of the dish. I'm going to add a succulent into this little cup holder. So I'm going to go ahead and add some Spanish moss just to hide the styrofoam and to give it a little bit of extra texture. Again, using some hot glue, I'm going to put a decent amount into the center to make sure that it reaches down to the styrofoam, and then I'm going to push the succulent in. Thanks so much for watching straight to the end. I really appreciate your support. Don't forget to check out that playlist link to see what all the other YouTube creators in my collab have done. If you like this kind of content, I'd love for you to stick around. Hit that subscribe button. Those 2 black arrows will show you exactly where to click. See you in the next one.